Throughout the years, I've watched a lot of media. And I mean a lot of media. And sometimes you can't help but come across shows that change the way that you consume said media. These shows, they flip a switch. They make you go from a passive viewer into someone who is deeply invested, analyzing every frame, every line of dialogue, and absolutely every character interaction. These shows end up creating habits that stick with you in the long run, and you start engaging differently with everything that you watch, read, or even play. This is one of those shows. This is a show that changed the way I think about storytelling, character development, and hell, even life itself. This is how Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood changed my life. One of the core aspects of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is, well, the characters. If there's one thing Brotherhood does better than almost any other show, it's creating a cast of characters that feel real, flawed, and, simply put, incredibly human. Take Ed and Al, for example. On the surface, they're just two brothers on a quest to restore their bodies after what could be considered a failed alchemy experiment, for lack of a better term. But what makes them such compelling characters is how their relationship drives the entire story forward, and how that same brotherly bond defines them at the beginning, but the very same bond has them reach a point where they simply feel lost within each other. The very thing at their own core of characters forces them to step out of their comfort zone and learn to be their own person outside of this relationship, without having to leave each other behind in the end. Ed's fiery determination and Al's quiet resilience balance each other perfectly, and their bond feels so authentic because that is what brotherhood is. It's having someone who is so close to you, that knows you and looks after you in the same way that you would for them, flaws and all, no matter what. That's why I think the word brotherhood is in the title, because the relationship between these brothers is the key aspect of the show. It is what drives the story forward. But it's not just the Elric brothers. Every character in this show, no matter how small their role, feels like they have a purpose. They honestly feel quite real. Whether it's Mustang's ambition to change the country from within, to learn that sacrifice is what you must do in order to get what you want, but hopefully never losing your north. Scar's internal struggle between vengeance and redemption, and learning not to forget the past, but to remember and honor it to build a better future. Or even what could be considered a quote-unquote minor character such as Winry, who brings so much heart and humanity to the story through the way that she simply endures for the sake of these two brothers who she loves, but in reality is scared to death to lose them because she already lost her parents in a very similar way. Every character in this show has depth, and that's something I've carried with me in how I experience stories. Whenever I start watching a new show, I've started asking myself, do these characters feel real? What are their motivations? Do they make sense? Are they growing? Are they just here to move the plot forward? Honestly, Brotherhood sets the bar so high that it's hard to go back to shows where characters feel like superficial cardboard cutouts. And then there's the storytelling. Oh man, the storytelling. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a masterclass in creating a complex, multi-layered narrative. The way that it balances its themes, like the cost of power, the consequences of playing God, the importance of human connection, and the way we deal with trauma, is nothing short of brilliant. But what really stands out to me is how every little detail in the show matters. It feels like there is no wasted dialogue, no throwaway scenes. Everything ties back to the larger narrative in some way. And when you start to piece it all together, it's like watching a puzzle come to life. Something that plays into this very heavily is the attention to those little details by the creators, the ones that make rewatching Brotherhood such a rewarding experience. Like the way the opening and ending themes reflect the whole story's progression as it goes along, the subtle foreshadowing in early episodes, the callbacks to earlier moments that hit even harder the second time around. It's a show that rewards you for paying attention, and that's something I've started looking for in other stories. I've honestly become obsessed with finding those little details, those little gems that make a story feel, well, alive. For example, lately I've started watching Daredevil and Punisher for the first time in order to get ready for the new show coming out next month. And every time a new character or a new detail or a new thread appears in the story, I can't help but to try and puzzle it together. Like, how do they fit here? What are the motivations? Where could things be going? And honestly, I am on point most of the time. And well, yeah, some of you might think that guessing the plot of a story makes it boring. I have to disagree. If anything, it's the opposite. It feels rewarding to pay attention to things and ways characters behave and have it actually pay off. You actively feel in sync with the writers of the show. And that's the beauty of Brotherhood. It trusts its audience to pay attention and connect the dots. It doesn't spoon feed you. It challenges you to think, and that is something I've come to appreciate more and more in the stories I consume. Beyond the characters and the story, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood honestly changed the way I see the world. As I said earlier, it's a show that doesn't shy away from difficult questions or themes. What does it mean to be human? How far would you go to achieve your goals? What are you willing to sacrifice along the way? And what is the cost of a life? What makes us human? Even, how do we deal with trauma? These are questions that don't have easy answers, and Brotherhood doesn't pretend that they do. Instead, it presents different perspectives coming from different characters and their experiences, along with their flaws, and lets you, the viewer, draw your own conclusions. It's a show that respects its audience, and that's something that I've carried with me in how I approach, well, not just media, but life in general. And lastly, the thing that changed my entire worldview, and my favorite thing in the whole show, it's its tone. This is a show that deals with some heavy themes, as previously mentioned: loss, war, morality, the consequences of trying to play God, humanity, regret, and trauma. But it never feels overwhelmingly bleak, because the show understands that life isn't just one shade, it's multicolored. Life is a mix of seriousness and silliness, heartbreak and humor, and Brotherhood captures that balance perfectly. For example, one moment you're watching Ed and Al have to confront the devastating consequences of their actions, and the next one you're laughing at Ed's over-the-top reaction to being called short. And honestly, it works. It works because that's how life is, right? Even in the darkest moments, there's room for a little laugh. The show never undercuts its own emotional weight with misplaced jokes, but it also doesn't let the heaviness suffocate you. It's a reminder that even in the face of tragedy, humanity finds a way to laugh, to connect, and, well, to keep moving forward. So yeah, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood didn't just change the way that I watch shows, it changed the way I think about stories, characters, even life itself. It's a show that challenges you, that moves you, and it stays with you long after the credits roll. So, if you haven't seen it yet, well, what are you waiting for? Trust me, it'll change your life.